you know, who's to say that if you change this U to, for example, a C, what does the U bind to? U pairs with, what does U replace?
T.
T. And what does T bind with? A. So U binds to adenine. What if I put a C there? That's not going to work. That's not going to cause interaction on the DNA strand or the RNA strand. So now you can see that you have another problem there. That's similar to the thymine dimer issue, where the two strands aren't interacting with each other. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong, okay? But there's a lot of things that can go wrong and it not cause something to happen, because we have multiple codons that code for the same amino acid, okay? One thing that I didn't mention to you all is that DNA polymerase, remember we talked about DNA polymerase that was replicating the DNA? Well, in human cells, it causes lots of mutations. It makes mistakes often, okay? And our cells have a way to repair that process, right? We talked about G0. DNA polymerase, and there's multiple different types, but they make lots and lots of mistakes. They'll put nucleotides there that maybe shouldn't have belonged there for multiple reasons, okay? But we have ways to fix that, and some of these are the fixing process. That's where these proteins, and these are all different types of proteins with different types of names, and all of them are acronyms and whatnot, and that people, you know, there's people who have to study that stuff. However, there are 3 common types of cancer that can develop from UV damage, or that develop particularly from UV damage. Now, we could be talking about chemical agents, whatever, maybe things that are in, skin products or whatever, but typically from UV damage. One of them is called squamous cell carcinoma. Has anybody heard of squamous cell carcinoma? Well, you can kind of tell from the name, this is squamous cells. This is cancer of the squamous cells. You already know what that is, right? These are squamous epithelial cells. They have that tapered end or flattened cells, and it's developing cancer. This is uncontrolled cell division, particularly the squamous cells up here. This is probably the most common type and not very detrimental at all. You can cut these things out fairly easily. Then you have basal cell carcinoma. This is another common type. Maybe some of you all have heard of basal cell carcinoma. What do you think that is? That's cancer of the basal cells. These cells are now dividing uncontrollably. And this gets very problematic. Why do you think? What did I say that the characteristic of those cells in the basal layer are? Okay, they had the potential to go deep because they're right there on the basal layer. However, there was a characteristic I told you all about the basal cells. They were very what? These basal cells were very mitotic, meaning that they're going through mitosis